they said to themselves, just turn the light switch on. It's pretty amazing, this program. You can do that. You could just turn the light switch on and have that change of thinking. I never thought it was possible, but I always thought I had to think about things and ruminate and think of the past, the future. If I had a resentment or I was angry, I had to hold on to it. But let me just read this. In Bill's story on page 15, this is after he goes through the steps, with Ebby, and he has this transformation. And this is what happens to Bill. And this is what can happen to us here today, right now. We don't have to wait with this. But it says, if you look on about the second paragraph down on page 15, the joy of living we really have even under pressure and difficulty. That line alone, what is it saying? It's saying that even under the most difficult situations, we can have this joy and happiness. You know what it says in our book in one page? It says, meet calamity with serenity. So it's saying the more calamity we have, the more joyous we could be. Because we have that switch of thinking when we realize it has nothing to do with the things on the outside of us. All our joy and happiness is from within here. So like I say, having that spiritual awakening is realizing that change of thinking, the perception change, which we could have. We finally, from working the steps, step 1 said we're powerless. Step 2 said we're insane. Between knowing we're powerless and knowing our thinking is off, our stinking thinking, then we get rid of those defects of character and we could be happy and joyous. It's pretty amazing, that one phrase there. And this is really true. I mean, people may say they don't believe it. The joy of living we even have on depression difficulty. Now, the next sentence after that, one more sentence down, it says, the most impossible, listen to this. Listen what can happen to your lives by working these steps. And this is what Bill, after he went through the steps, and I can tell you my life and people I see around me, all of these big things we're thinking about, we're upset and during the day, and the anxiety and depression, these steps take us out of that because we realize it's not about us anymore, that this was the ego. You listen to the ego, it's going to set you wrong and make you upset every time. So we have a better way, this higher consciousness. So people are going to ask, well, where do you find it? Where is it? It's in here. It's always been in here. All joy and happiness is inside. The kingdom is in here. All of that. Forget about the sorry transitory world that we live in. All of these things outside of us. Forget about what the 5 senses tell you. The taste, the seeing, the hearing, the smelling, right? Again, that's related to our addiction to food, right? But when we have the spiritual consciousness, then we have that abundance and God confidence. We don't need, always talk about, and I say here, and people don't agree with me, I said, I don't need self-esteem, I need God esteem. My whole life I was trying to build up my self-esteem. You hear people say it all the time, I have low self-esteem. No, when we have the God consciousness, we have what's called humility. Humility, step 7 talks about humility. Step 6 just says we need the willingness. Just the willingness. Knowing the truth from the false. I was speaking to some people the other day, and somebody will say, hey, look, I get really upset during the day, I'm depressed. I said, all you have to do is realize the truth from the false. Understand all of these things that we're thinking is really false. It's not true. The real truth and happiness is in here. So no matter what happens on the outside, it's not the answer, and the way we know that is because when we do finally get the outside the way we want it to be, say, hey, we get that job we want, we win the lottery, we get that person we wanted to like us, they like us now or love us or whatever. We have this change, we get people to understand. It's only momentary pleasure. Same with that big plate of food or anything. It's a momentary pleasure. And I'm going to talk about the man who climbs Mount Everest, right? He gets all the way up to the top. And he spent years, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He maimed himself, got frostbite, he gets to the top, he has a momentary pleasure. With the food, it's a moment on the lips, eternity on the hips, so to speak. But that, this addiction to food and these steps talks all about life. It's about everything in life. So but the food is the greatest one. Look, how many people I work with, look, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol too, but I put the cork in the bottle. It seemed that this food is a great way to get close to the spirituality and the steps, and also, like I want to say too, that it seemed that, people come in here, they're very despondent. Oh, this is like the last house on the block. This is what I was talking about to somebody the other day, and I can't believe I'm here. What am I doing? No, these steps are, it's pretty amazing when it's life changing. You should be grateful. As they say, I'm a grateful compulsive overeater. I'm a grateful alcoholic, grateful drug addict, whatever it is. But these steps encompass all the major religions and philosophies of life, and any like I say, any philosophy book you pick up, any religious denomination book you read, any prayer book, they all related here in the first part of this big book. And it goes on to say, and Bill says, the most impossible domestic situations rioted, feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. It's a pretty amazing. When we have that God consciousness and we see people with love, tolerance, and patience, it says in our book, we can only smile. And then it goes on to say, listen to this. On page 15 again in the big book, if you go down to the next sentence there, this page, like every page, is full of power and pretty amazing. It says, there is scarcely any form, listen to this, for anybody sitting there being upset about something. This step to spiritual transformation is telling you, like Bill had, you don't have to wait 10, 20 years. You can have it today at this meeting. Today at this meeting, you can have that transformation. For me, you want to know exactly what it is? It's letting go, realizing my thinking was crazy, that all of these things I thought about came from the ego and the self-centeredness. When we let go, pray and meditate, and that story with the guy climbing Mount Everest. So anyway, he gets up there, has momentary pleasure. He comes home. On the way home, he has an argument with the taxi cab driver. He argues with his wife when he gets home. But anyway, the worst thing is he looks on the internet and some guy climbed the mountain many more times than he did. So he's got to be happy, he's got to go back and climb the mountain again. But anyway, the interesting thing is where I heard this story in a meditation center, and the guy up there, he was sitting there and he was the real deal. And he said, look, I can sit on my couch, listen to this, and be just as happy. We're looking for all the joy and happiness on things outside of us. We could sit here now, get centered. The example is as a little child, how they're so happy in the present. And I used the example, I was talking to these people the other day about a puppy dog. Look at the puppy dog. I said, every day is the best day of their life. God gave us this gift of the intellect, but we misuse it. We misuse it. If somebody puts a gun to your head, we have what's called the flight or fright response. If you're in the wilderness and a bear is going to attack us. But no, we use it for everything. We walk out of the house, somebody looks at us the wrong way, somebody says something to us. Not only that, most of the time it's not true. It's something we conjured up in our mind. But the great part of this program is that, and learning these steps of spiritual awakening, is that we can only smile. So if somebody's trying to push my buttons, get me upset, whatever they did to me, I can sit there and smile. I definitely don't have to carry it around for the next 10 years or 20 years.